Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time for your daily trending for June 5th, 2020. Let's take a look at what's hot on Twitter before we look at a couple things on YouTube, or I tell you about a couple things on YouTube. I'm going to skip the top one here, All-Star 5. Basically, Ricky Martin was trending because people were shocked that they haven't heard from him in 20 years. Somehow he's still a celebrity, but he still looks good, and that's cool, I guess. Anyway, Lady G. This is not Lady Gaga. I was like, oh, Lady Gaga's trending. I hate her music, and she's ugly, and I think she's a Satanist. No, it's Lindsey Graham, who apparently, at least this is the rumor, hires male escorts in the Washington, D.C. area and makes them call him Lady G. And so this is another one of those things where it's like, conservative Republican turns out to be gay. And to be honest, dude looks a little gay. Every time I hear him talk, I'm like, I think this dude might be gay. He's always had a gay vibe to me. So I think I'm going to put this possible story in the definitely possible category. The thing is that supposedly he makes these male escorts sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And we can see basically with like the Stormy Daniels thing that a non-disclosure agreement doesn't really bind anybody. If they have something that could be used against you, they're going to say it. And even if you can sue them for violating a non-disclosure agreement, the damage is basically done. So anything that you'd engage in, any kind of behavior you'd engage in that requires you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, other than say like work for hire on, on a project, right? Like, you're not supposed to disclose the progress of a project to competitors. That seems like an obvious thing. But if it's like, I'm going to hire a hooker and make her sign an NDA, it's like, you can't really count on that. That's a really dumb idea to say, well, I'll use a legal threat to get this person to be quiet. It's like, it's not going to work, because they're going to be able to play like some kind of victim card when they expose you for being secretly gay and hiring gay male escorts. So that one was kind of funny. I was pleasantly surprised to see something that wasn't Lady Gaga. And expose Antifa. So here's what's up. So Morse algo text, which is you're attaching little things to the characters. You can just copy paste if you find a hashtag rather than typing it in. So the whole idea here is that people who are pro-terrorist will disrupt the flow of information around expose Antifa by posting K-pop. So the entire feed has nothing to do with Antifa at all, like people can't communicate in some other specific way. But just keep in mind, anybody that's trying to disrupt something that's anti-Antifa is a terrorist or pro-terrorism, at least. So they're bad guys, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see here. Trending with Roger Goodell. Apologize to Kaepernick. I don't know anything about what's going on here. No idea. So I'm going to skip that one. I am a suburban mom. So here's a bunch of Karens bending the knee and saying that Black Lives Matter. So this is the fury of the Karens against cops. The Karens really need the cops, though. I mean, if anyone was going to be pro-cops, it should be Karens. But if people on social media say that you need to be anti-cop, then darn it, Karen is going to ask to speak with the manager of each and every cop. I am terrified of what the cops can do with impunity to peaceful protesters. Yeah, the ones burning down buildings, the bandits. They're not protesters. They're not rioters. They're bandits. And every game I've played, bandits drop loot. So we should treat them like bandits. It used to be that one of the duties of the local lord, the local knight, was to round up his men-at-arms and clear out the bandits from the local area. Ought to be getting rid of the bandits. Let's see if there's anything else here. Harry songs, I don't even know. Denny, does your favorite fast food chain match what state you're from? Hey, this another one of those maps with fast food chains. This one not altered by whatever pizza place that was last time. No kneeling. Trump says, do not kneel. And I agree. You should not kneel in front of people that hate you and want you dead. That to me is, I have a large amount of disgust. Now, this one's interesting. So all 57 members of this police team that knocked over this old man and gave him a head injury all resigned at once. Now, if you were to read this and you're listening to the language that these people are using, like, oh, they're supporting police brutality. There was nothing brutal about what they did to this old man. They simply pushed him lightly, and because he was an old man and they didn't take care to notice that he was obviously not as robust as a normal person, he fell over backwards, and it's gross. You don't have to watch the video. But police brutality, I don't really think so. Having seen and watched the video for myself. I don't know why they all resigned, though. That seems like a really weird... Oh, no, I don't want to show that to you, because then I won't be able to monetize the video. It's gross, guys. You don't have to... You really don't have to watch it if you don't want to. So, weird decision by them, but I guess there's probably something else going on in the department, would be my guess. So they just all resigned in protest. This reminds me, there's a larger discussion that I've been seeing going on about... basically about getting rid of police forces. That I think Elon Omar is like, we're going to disband the Minneapolis police and replace it with like life coaches or something. I don't want to get into like too deep a discussion about how policing works without being police, like being an official police force, because what you end up with is the rich people can hire private security and everybody else kind of has to figure out their own security. You're only going to be able to get rid of police in this fantasy world that a lot of leftists operate in, where the only bad guys are the cops harassing good, normal people. And the only behavior you have to deal with is that which is deviant or maybe delinquent, that there's no significant antisocial behavior. Antisocial behavior would be that which is against a person. For instance, stealing, theft, rape, murder, breaking objects, vandalism. All of that is antisocial behavior. You have police because you have to deal with antisocial behavior and you have to execute justice on antisocial behavior at the very minimum for any kind of society to feel like it has peace, security, and justice involved. No society can really stand to have antisocial behavior rewarded or uncontested. So at the bare minimum, you have to figure out how you're going to prosecute criminals. They're not even really thinking that, because it's not even part of their line of thinking in their narrative that there's going to be people who continue to steal and do bad things, right? There's always going to be some tiny minority of people that's going to do really a bunch of bad things. That what you're really dealing with is all these systemic problems like, drug use or addiction or poverty. And if we just solve those, the antisocial behavior will go away. It's like, I got news for you, it won't. And in the meantime, everybody's going to get all their stuff broken, stolen, people get killed, raped, murdered, while you solve the generational problems of whatever you think the generational problems are. I don't think so. It doesn't work that way. So you can have a different discussion about funding of police forces, because obviously there's nothing that government does which should receive unlimited funding, right? There should always be some kind of idea that like there's an appropriate funding and you don't need more. And if you're cutting funding, it's because putting more money into it is not yielding the results that you want. That's a valid discussion, but the idea of like, we're going to punish this police force by, we're going to punish the LAPD by cutting their funding. It's like, that's really just going to be punishing the people who can't afford police. Now, one of the things about LAPD or any large metropolitan police force is that you're dealing with multiple localities once you get into a big area. So if you're in a small town, and I live in a really small town, the local police force is truly local, like they live among you. That's not really true when you go to LA, where the LAPD doesn't really live in South LA, South Central LA, or Watts, or any of these little communities that are really stricken and hard, that what we call inner city communities. They don't live there because their salary permits them to live elsewhere, so they are essentially outsiders to the community. But that's necessary, because otherwise you wouldn't really, like that little group of people wouldn't really be able to hire and maintain its own police force with enough funding, training, enough veracity, and enough high quality personnel in order to maintain law and order in these really stricken areas. You really do need to collectivize the area, if you will. So the police that are working in South Central LA are subsidized by the richer people that are working in other parts of LA, and by the businesses in, say, downtown LA, who pay the large majority of the taxes. And I think their budget is like, it's in the billions. It's like $3 billion the LAPD uses for all of its policing. And they still haven't solved all the problems, right? You're not going to get rid of all crime. But you do have to execute justice for society to feel that it is safe, secure, and morally just, that the society is tolerable to live in. If you don't have basic justice according to the people that are there, then it's going to be intolerable. And that leads you to another conclusion that, maybe there's a lot of people who feel like there's not justice because of, events like George Floyd. But my point is always those are extreme events and don't really represent the day-to-day goings-on of what's actually happening in these inner city areas. So I just thought I'd discuss that. That's actually not on trending, but I've been seeing it a lot, this idea, we're going to get rid of police. It's like, okay, well, I mean, there's alternatives, I guess, in a theoretical sense, but do you actually want to explore those, or are you just truth is they're living in fantasy land where they imagine that all the antisocial behavior that strikes these lower income communities is going to just go away once you don't have the police antagonizing the people or something like that. It's kind of dumb. Anyway, let's move on to YouTube before I get to make this video too long. So Drew Brees, he said something like, I don't want anyone to disrespect the flag, and then he went back and apologized. That's all I really need to know there. This is something else here. There's a bunch of these videos I saw today of women crying into the camera. And I don't know if this is like a really common thing on YouTube. I get that it might be. I think it was a thing like 10 years ago. There was a lot of people kind of crying into the camera and having an emotional delivery. Update must watch from Gabrielle Moses. And I was like, what is she crying about? I watched some of this video. I couldn't figure out what happened to this girl and why she's walking on with this camera on her crying. And it's like, the solution was further down. We broke up. So her and her boyfriend or whatever broke up, I guess. And of course, that's going to put you in a difficult position. And of course, everything else would be affecting her. Now, here's what I find really odd, right? Is like, I don't want to put out a video where I'm crying. Like if I'm pre-recording a video and it's like I start breakdown crying, I'm like, I'm really not going to put that out. That's just embarrassing. That's just not, it's too personal for the internet. Maybe you cry for your spouse or something, but putting it out online seems a little bit weird. Like you're bringing the intimacy of self-life into online. She's calling her followers like her family. That's interesting to me. Like I appreciate my subscribers. I love the interactions that I get to have on YouTube, but there's a separation there, and hopefully everybody watching has that. It's like me having conversations on the internet is different than me having conversations with my girlfriend or my wife or my kids or something else, right? There's a different level of personal realness once you get away from the digital space. But anyway, that's a bunch of these videos of like women crying into the camera. At the same time, there's all kinds of jump cuts in this, which means this person spontaneously cried into the camera, but then watched themselves crying and edited the video together into something to put on YouTube, and it's got 1 million views. I guess I can't argue with the results, but it just seems so bizarre. Like, how could you stand to sit there and watch yourself cry as you edit your video to put it on YouTube? Shouldn't there be a million little stops along the way where you're like, I just don't need to do this? She's like, oh, I'm going to keep it real. It's like, is it real if it's like that? You can be real with like a post that's well thought out, like a letter too. It just seems like a weird thing to do. Now, it's different if it was like spontaneous. If you're having a live stream and like something, you got overcome with emotion, I guess that's a little bit different. That's very understandable. But for something pre-recorded, to me, that's the same as like recording an essay, I guess. If you make a mistake, I guess you should do it again. We got more, explaining the pandemic to my past self. This is a little comedy one. Standard YouTube video here talking about, his experiences. That's fine. Oh, this one. Here's another lady crying. I watched this one. It's because she has cancer. And so that's obviously something that's going to be traumatic. I don't think I would have chosen a video to explain that to somebody because it's really hard to get through something like that. But again, this idea like I'm going to say this and then put it out on the internet for 264,000 people to watch me being emotional. This seems very odd to me. I don't know if this is just like a female thing and I don't understand it because I'm a man or what's going on here. This is another one. Now, this is somebody from, I guess, the ASMR community, which people are like, you should do ASMR videos. Like, I should record the Communist Manifesto ASMR style. And she's apologizing for not talking about Black Lives Matter and breaking down and crying. I don't know why it's just like it's white women that are affected by this whole, I gotta apologize, I gotta use my platform to talk about this. And like they get all kinds of heat for not talking enough about it and not having the approved leftist message to the point where they break down and cry and pre-record a video and then put it on YouTube to have other people watch them cry and apologize to people who hate them. Like, it's bizarre to me. What a strange humiliation ritual this is. It's painful to try to watch something like this. So you are welcome to try to watch it over on the trending tab if you really want to. So yes, I guess she broke up. She looks a lot much more composed in this one than the other one. And I think I saw a couple others down here of people like crying and apologizing about something. This looks cool. What happens when you use too much laundry detergent? You end up with soap on stuff. You gotta rinse your clothes again. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys next time. Newest book is Tyrant's Gallow. You can pre-order it now. It's the sequel to City of Silver, and it's got a lot of fun stuff, including like pirates and jailbreaks and all kinds of other kinds of interesting action. So hopefully you'll give it a chance if you liked the first Moonsong book. If not, you can buy City of Silver and check that one out too. And I'll see you guys next time.